Hello, friends. Welcome to Cacao with Ryan and Stephanie. Longtime couple, parents of four, and a family committed to conscious living. Every week, we're going to share real conversations from our healing journey, our family life, and the work we do in the world. And our mission is that we bring and spread love into this world, and we teach other families to do the same. Today, we're going to share the story of how plant medicine found us and how this path became the foundation for our family, our healing, and our mission.
Thank you, Ryan. Before we dive in, we just want to say how grateful we are to be starting this YouTube channel with intention in a way that truly reflects who we are as a family. As an update, we recently moved from Cary, North Carolina to Asheville and are just now finding our rhythm with homeschool, with work-life balance, and with hosting ceremonies and retreats again. So it's a very exciting time, and it's such a welcome change from the busy city life and now finding peace and grounding here in the mountains. All right, so Ryan, tell us, how did we get here?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it fast. Our story sort of began with my little brother Connor, who passed away in 2016. And at the time of his death, I was really going through a serious and intense battle with alcohol. I'd been trying to get sober for many years, and I just wasn't finding consistency in sobriety. But when my brother passed away, there was just this big spark that came alive inside of me where I immediately wanted to better my life. So 3 weeks after he passed away, I was in rehab, um, and I stayed sober after that for 2 years. There was a move from Maine to North Carolina during that time. There was a blog that I started where I named myself Ryan the Alcoholic. So there's a lot of things happening. However, I wasn't really getting any better. AA was a really beautiful way for me to start my recovery in the sense that I learned how to be honest. And if I'm being honest here, sobriety left me really miserable. I really didn't like myself very much, and was just left confused. Like, if this is what sober life is like, then I must be missing the point. So after 2 years of struggling through that sort of cycle, I had another relapse. I went back to alcohol. We were living in North Carolina at the time, but we were back home in Maine when I decided to drink again. And thank God for that, because um, my older brother, who is also in recovery, was able to witness firsthand what alcohol was doing to me. Even after drinking for 2 years, I mean, I went into this spiral out of control in literally less than a day. And he had this tremendous, overwhelming feeling come over him. He had done plant medicine before. In fact, he had done ayahuasca a couple of years before this, and had even shared a little bit about it. But I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, "What the hell is that?" But he was kind enough to share this feeling that came over him with me the next day, saying that, I think that ayahuasca is something that could really help you, Ryan. Really move past this alcohol thing. So I was desperate at that point. I would have done anything. I'd done rehab. Like, I was a guy that really wanted to be better. I really wanted to stop drinking. But I just kept going back, and I didn't understand why. So very soon later, less than a month later, I was on a plane to Western Canada, and I was drinking ayahuasca, and I was terrified, and the experience itself was terrifying. But when I woke up the next morning and the sun came up and the birds started chirping, I was a new man, a different man. And very quickly, the alcohol that I had been thinking about and obsessing about over the last, decade just became unimportant. When I came home, life was great. However, over time, these feelings and emotions that I'd been suppressing for so long started to come up, making my life a little more difficult. And I didn't really have to deal with all these feelings and emotions without the alcohol. So eventually, and I sort of learned as an integration through the ayahuasca process that a lot of my drinking was more or less just a cry for help. And that's exactly what I did about 5 months, 6 months after I drank ayahuasca, is that I realized I needed help again. So unconsciously, I drank, and not long later, I only had this bender. It was only 5 days, but it was the bender that ended up saving my life. So for you drinkers out there who have one more slip, don't be so hard on yourself, because this slip was the catalyst that really saved my life. So after I drank that time, I really was in search of like help again, and I was contemplating rehab. I was like, you know what, I don't need to do that again. So I really went into the plant medicine thing and started doing research on the internet, where I found an article breaking down the differences between iboga and ayahuasca. And I won't get into too many details about what iboga and ayahuasca is. We will later in calls, but they're two very powerful, sacred plant medicines. So I felt this tremendous call to go down to Costa Rica and experience iboga, and it changed my life. Again, I wrote a book about it. I'd be happy to share all about that experience, but more or less, I went in there praying to God that I could stop drinking. That was my intention. And when I came back, just like the ayahuasca, the alcohol immediately became unimportant. And the miraculous thing about that experience was that 4 or 5, 6 months later, I was realizing that I hadn't even thought about alcohol in months, and that my obsession for it completely disappeared. And to me, that was a miracle. I never thought that was possible. And my life just started opening up in ways that I never would have imagined. I was writing books, it was the pipe dream stuff, and it was all coming true. So, it was a really beautiful transition for me. And I had a lot of tremendous support from Stephanie, which is really great. And speaking of which, too, it must have been very interesting for you to see me kind of go through this process where I was, in the hell with alcohol. And all of a sudden, I'm writing books and I'm feeling better and doing plant medicine. So tell me a little about what your experience was like, Steph.
It was beautiful and it was inspiring to see Ryan literally coming back to life and experiencing joy and experiencing happiness and breaking free from his addiction. And behind the scenes, I had been battling with a host of chronic health conditions that weren't getting better by traditional approaches. Chronic daily abdominal pain and bloating, dizziness, profound fatigue to the point of having to take 2 naps a day, chronic anxiety that I didn't even know was anxiety until I started using plant medicine. And I had been without a menstrual cycle for about 20 years. So, again, as I saw Ryan having really incredible results with these unconventional technique or medicines, I figured, why not? And if he was going places, I was going with him. My background as a PA, so I had previously done what everyone else does. I sought help from my primary care provider, and the only solutions that they could offer were pharmaceuticals or going to see a specialist. And that didn't really work for me. So as I dove into this world of plant medicine, I be I was able to begin peeling back the layers of the onion and really getting to the root of the why my body had been sending me these signals, why most notably I'd been suppressing all of my emotions for so long and had got to the place of complete and absolute burnout that I was existing from. So once I could better understand the why, then I could then move forward and choose um, to live my life differently. And so over my years with plant medicine, was able to completely eradicate all those symptoms that I had been suffering from for so long. And most notably, I got the return of my menstrual cycle several years ago, which was a huge life accomplishment. I wasn't sure if that would ever happen for me. And then, not intentionally, not meaning to, just a couple cycles after that, we conceived our fourth and miracle baby. The previous 3 children that we have were all conceived through fertility treatment. So, although our stories are very different, it is a testament of what is possible when true healing to the roots occurs. So, that's just my individual story. Now let's talk about the first time that we sat in ceremony together, Ryan. What was that like for you?
Refreshing, true, impactful, inspiring. For me, I just remember sitting in this circle, this sacred circle with other individuals, and I just kept talking and talking and talking and wanting to talk about me. And it was the first time in my life I became aware that maybe I talk a lot and maybe I overstep Stephanie. So it was interesting to go into our journey and into our night when later I heard her speaking. And the sound of her voice just sounded so wonderful. And it was a really great moment for me because I realized how much I didn't let her speak and how much I was always the one that was in control, that dominant male force. And it was just really refreshing to hear her voice and how much I loved the sound of it. And it was a really big moment for the two of us. It was really the beginning of all of this stuff that we're creating because without that, there's no this. That was really the catalyst for us to really begin this journey with generational healing and generational conditioning, healing and learning from our ancestors. So it's been a really, really beautiful transition for both of us. And that's just part of it. We woke up the next morning inspired like never before. Um, and in typical fashion, my journeys are usually a lot more difficult than Stephanie's. So I'll let her share what it was like the next morning because I was still deep in my process while she was, her arms are up and celebrating her new life. So it was really beautiful to see. So Steph, tell us what came to us the next morning.
Absolutely. The next morning for me was such a knowing of this is what we do. So, how can we start holding space immediately? Let's rally the troops. I mean, we'd set up Zoom calls with some of the other participants and co facilitators several weeks later, just feeling super inspired and motivated to continue down this path. And it's taken 6 years later, thankfully. Little did we know, a little naive at the time, that we had so much of our own personal work to do beforehand, which again, for a good reason. And now being on the other side and being able to hold space for people is so rewarding. Again, in contrast to my background in Western medicine, really helping people get to the roots and truly heal rather than just treating symptoms and empowering them to make real lasting change in their life is extremely gratifying. So for me, it was instantaneous, as much for Ryan, and just our dynamic in that first ceremony was really beautiful. Just being in this super safe space where, our guards were down and, we could just speak authentically from a very safe and loving place, was really huge for our individual journeys and for our journeys as a couple and in growing and healing together. So it was immediate for us that we knew that we wanted to hold space and help others. When was it for you, Ryan, that you knew that we wanted to bring this work to couples and to families?
Like you, it was in the beginning, but it wasn't really something that was speaking to me loudly until we decided to have a cacao ceremony with our children. And we're going to get into cacao next week and share what our ceremonies look like. But this happened for the first time in July of 2023. Stephanie was pregnant with our miracle baby. And it was the best day of my life up to the time, because we've had many cacao ceremonies and they just keep getting better, better, and better. But we sat in a circle with our children. We drank ceremonial cacao, which is safe for children. We started talking openly about our feelings, and we started dancing, and we started drawing animal spirit cards together, and then creating this wonderful brunch that we'd have afterwards. So it just became this really beautiful day of peace and connection and love, and we were sharing that with our children, and it was something that my heart was aching for, and I know Stephanie's heart was aching for the same thing. And it's just been so beautiful for our children too, because every time we say we're having a cacao ceremony, they're immediately getting the room set up, they're already getting the cacao out, and it's just who we are as a family. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. We like to honor the medicine, obviously, the cacao and all these other medicines that have opened our hearts and minds to all these infinite possibilities. And we give deep respect to our ancestors as well, and keep them close to our hearts. So it's been really beautiful in that sense. Steph, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so our story isn't just about plant medicine, it's about really creating this family bond and connection rooted in truth and presence, and really empowering and helping others do the same and letting them know what's possible. Okay, so
we're going to end with a little Q&A. We're going to ask each other a couple questions that we feel the audience might be curious about. And then we'll wrap it up. So, Steph, ask me a question.
All right, what part of your healing journey has most impacted your role as a parent?
I'm glad you asked, because when I was sharing my story earlier, there's something important that I wanted to say that I didn't get a chance to get off my chest. Was that, a big reason why I was able to get rid of alcohol for the rest of my life is I was able to understand and come to terms with the truth of my upbringing and how my childhood had everything to do with my addiction. And I think that's true for everybody else out there. So for me, when I did yoga that time and I really learned the truth of my upbringing, there was just so much grief, that I expressed, knowing that I had clarity in why I turned out the way I did. And for me, that was just so important, so freeing, so I could let that go. So what part of my healing has been most impacted, so I show up as a parent, it's just learning the truth about what it was like for me as a kid, so I can really stop this cycle of abuse that's been going on for generations and making sure that doesn't happen in this household. So that's been the most important thing for me. How about you, Steph?
Absolutely, that is part of it for sure, is having a better understanding of my childhood and what actions or inactions led to my conditioning, so that I no longer am repeating that for my own children. And also, I would say a really big part has been finding forgiveness for myself and accepting that I'm not perfect and that everyone makes mistakes, and really owning up to it, particularly with my children when I do maybe act not as gracefully as I would like, or maybe are quick to react versus taking a sacred pause. So just having that forgiveness for myself, and then also calling myself out too to my kids, so that they know that it's okay to make mistakes, and really honoring that. What do you wish, Ryan, more families knew about this path?
So that's a great question, and I'll start with some advice my mentor gave me back in the very beginning before I went to Iboga. He told me, Ryan, if you can keep on that path of going into your pain, your life will open up in ways that you cannot yet imagine. I was a brave boy back in the day, so I was really curious to learn more about my pain. And the pain doesn't always have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be painful, but it's important to understand it so you can really tune into that vibration of love, which is always on the other side of fear, right? So I wish more families knew that healing is it's okay, it's safe, and it's really important. And especially with family, it can start getting really fun and exciting and loving. That's kind of what I wish people knew more about this. Stephanie, I don't know if I said that right. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be scary or painful. And for us, it has been the most beautiful blessing to create these ceremonies with our family and our children. And as Ryan said previously, they're the best days ever, where in this world of disconnection, where there's devices and TV and phones, to just have this sacred time to connect with one another and be very open and vulnerable and have fun together. So that's really hard to come by this day and age. So I wish that more families knew what this path could offer for them and their family as a way to reconnect with one another.
Great, yeah. So Steph, I'll just ask you this last question. What part of your journey are you most grateful for today?
It would be difficult to pinpoint one part. I mean, I'm grateful for the whole journey, and I guess I'm grateful for the times when it's been really hard because in my experience, the universe continues to poke at the wound until we're willing to really face it and then start and make a conscious choice to act or speak differently. So I'm really grateful for those difficult times where it felt like the world was
against us.
Yeah, or caving in. And those times make you so much stronger and grateful for what it is that you have. So I guess I'm most grateful for the difficult moments and for what it's brought us here today, really living out our dream here in Asheville and homeschooling our kids and now being of service to you all.
It's a great answer. I wish she had asked me first. That's kind of what I was going to say, but I guess what part of the journey I'm most grateful for, aside from that, because that is 100% true, is just being able to share this with my wife and our 4 amazing children. I think just being open and speaking about our pain and our feelings and our emotions has been so rewarding and so inspiring, and I really definitely a learning experience for us all. So definitely grateful for that. And yeah, that kind of brings us to our closing. So, for me, this work is about ending cycles. When I went to that first ayahuasca retreat, I was really keen on breaking the cycle addiction that had been going along in my family's my family's lineage for generations. And I did it for my children. And I've never lost track of that. And I don't think I ever will. Yeah, we're families of healers, and I'm so grateful and honored to be able to expand this to my children and see where this takes us going forward.
Beautiful. And for me, it's absolutely ending these cycles so that our children don't have to have the same experience that we did, and also really just remembering who we are and remembering our truth as individuals and as a family. So wherever you are in your healing, your journey and your story matters as well. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We will be sharing a new video every week about holistic living, conscious parenting, and sacred ceremony. If this resonates, hit subscribe and join the Conscious Crew. Again, we are so grateful that you are on this journey here with us. See you next week.
And next week, we're going to be talking about what a cacao ceremony looks like for a family. So tune in. Much love.